Very good morning to all class 8 students. Yesterday we talked about part 3.1. Today we are taking the chapter ahead with part 3.2. Okay, we left at page number 93 with the first paragraph done, and now we have to do the second paragraph, right? Okay, what we have learned in part 3.1 was Jodi's meeting with the phone finally took place, and that joy, the moment of joy that he did not want to share with Millville, he had it all by himself, right? He was so excited to have the phone finally with him. Now that the phone has been met with him, another task was to carry him home, right? So this is what we are going to learn, how the phone was helped in every manner by this small caring boy is what we are going to learn. Right, let's start. His arms began to ache and he was forced to stop again. When he walked on, the phone followed him at once. He allowed it to walk a little distance, then picked it up again. The distance home was nothing. He could have walked all day and into the night, carrying it and watching it follow. Right. Finally, after walking for a while, both of them were very close to the house, to Jodi's house. They were reaching home. Right. He remembered his father's words once: if you carry the phone in your hand and you put him down on the ground, he would surely follow you once you start walking. And exactly what had happened with him, right? So whenever he felt tired, he would put the phone down and the phone will follow. And whenever he will get his strength back again, he will carry the phone and will rush. So doing this exercise, both were nearly reaching the house. He was wet with sweat, but a light breeze blew through the June morning, cooling him. The sky was as clear as spring water in a blue china cup. So it talks about the setting. What was the environmental setting were? It was the month of June and morning time, and the sky was very clear. There was no sign of rain that day when they were reaching home. He came to the clearing. Clearing is the part where the doe was killed. It was fresh and green after the night's rain because it had, it poured very heavily a night before, so everything looked very fresh, yet wet and muddy. Now that they were there, reached at their house, right? He fumbled with the latch and was finally obliged to set down the phone to manage it. What is a latch? Latch is the metal bar which we use to fasten the door of our house, the main door of our house, right? To oblige means he was compelled, he was forced. So as soon as they reached the doorstep of their house, Jodi was forced to put the phone down from his hand, and he was forced to ask the phone to come into the house. That means to enter the house, because he was so tired rushing home carrying the phone in his hand. He fumbled means he could not open the latch properly, but somehow he managed, and he had to put the phone down, ask him to enter the house. Then he had an idea. He would walk into the house, into Penny's bedroom with the phone walking behind him. Okay, suddenly some idea struck him. He thought, let the phone follow me. I would first go to my daddy's house, my daddy's room, and then I will take the phone with me. He must follow me. Since he put him down, now wherever he goes, the phone has to follow him. But at the steps, now perhaps the phone entered the house, but then there was a staircase. The father was in his room. So if Jodi wanted to go to meet the father with the phone, he had to climb the stairs. Now the phone is not accustomed to climb the stairs because he's a deer. Deer are meant for wild, for jungle, for forest. And they are good at scampering into the jungle, not good at climbing stairs in the house, right? So it was a new thing for him. So what happened? But at the steps, the fawn balked and refused to climb them. Them refers to the steps. Balked. Balked means he was not willing to. He did not want to climb the stair. Right. So he refused to because he did not have any idea as to climb the steps. So he stopped there. So what did Geordie do? He picked it up and went to his father. Penny lay with closed eyes. Because the fawn could not climb the stairs, he had to uh, carry him in his hands to go to the father's house, to go to the father's room. What did he see? Father Buxter was lying in bed with eyes closed. Geordie called, "Pa, look." Penny turned his head. Geordie stood beside him. The fawn clutched hard against him. It seemed to Penny that the boy's eyes were as bright as the fawn's. He said, "I am glad you found him." See, father understood very well that finally Geordie has found the fawn. He made his mind up. He was so determined to find and bring the fawn home. So he was glad. He was happy that he found his friend. Geordie then went to the kitchen. The fawn wobbled after him. You see, the floor in the house, the fawn was not used to walk on the floor, the tiles in the house and the stairs to climb, So he was not so used to live in the house settings. It was for the first time for him. So he wobbled while walking on the tiled floor, perhaps. A pan of morning's milk stood in the kitchen safe. The cream had risen on it. He skimmed the cream into a jug. Skim, that means separated the cream. When the milk gets cool, when it gets cold, the creams, sort of floats on the surface. So that cream he separated because he did not want to give the cream, because deer may not have the creamy milk. So what did he do? He separated it and he poured milk into a small gourd. Gourd is a container, a small like a bowl container. Yes, he held it out to the fawn. He butted it suddenly, right? Okay, what is the meaning of butted? Butted here, hitting with head, right? Now he knew that the fawn must be hungry and I should give him some food. So what did he do? He took the fawn into the kitchen, and as promised earlier, he was ready to negotiate with his share of milk because of the fawn. So what did he do? Perhaps it was his milk which he separated from the cream and started, at least tried to give it to the fawn. But fawn, see, since he was a baby, he was used to suckle from the mother, not to drink from the bowl, okay, not to drink from a gourd or a container. So now this is going to be a challenge for Geordie to make him, to train him how to drink milk from a container. See how beautifully he does it. See, what did he do? For the first time when he gave the milk, the fawn butted it. That means he hit it suddenly. He refused. He did not want to drink milk. He only smelt it, and then as soon as he hit it with the head, he saved it precariously from spilling over the floor. He refers to Geordie. Precariously, that means in uncertain manner, suddenly, because the fawn was about to hit the bowl and the milk was about to spill over the kitchen floor. So what did he do? He suddenly stopped it. He very hesitantly he stopped from spilling over here and there. it could make nothing of the milk in the gourd. That means, see, he doesn't know how to drink milk from the container because he's not used. He was looking for his mother. Now that he has arrived in the house with Jody, he needs to learn how to drink because the mother is no more. So he somehow has to drink milk from the container only. And what Jody is doing so desperately, he is trying to, make him familiarize with the milk drinking from container. That how he should do it. Okay, but somehow he could not do anything with the milk. The milk remained as it is. However, Jody was determined that he will make the fawn drink the milk. See how he is going to do. He dipped his finger. This part is very important. This is also an answer to one of a question. He dipped his fingers in the milk and thrust them into the fawn's soft mouth. What is the meaning of thrust? Violently pushed. That means, what did he do? He put his fingers into the milk, wet his fingers with milk, and suddenly took his hand right next to his mouth so that he could smell the milk and he could really leak onto the fingers and taste the milk, how the milk tastes from container. Right. So what did he do? See, how did he respond? How did the fawn respond? He dipped his fingers in the milk and thrust them into the fawn's soft, wet mouth. Right. It sucked so greedily. Right. What did he do? He started leaking and suckling onto the fingers of Jody. When he withdrew them, that means when he took the fingers back, it bleated frantically. Yes. Bleated, that means cried sharply in a sharp manner. And frantically, that means in an uncontrolled way. See, this shows he wanted more milk. He wanted to suckle on to Jody's fingers, the way he would suckle the mother to drink milk. Right? So he bleated, he cried. This cry was the demand for more milk. And butted him. Also, this was a sign that he wanted milk, more milk. Butted him, that means softly pushed him, right? So what did he do? He dipped his fingers again, and as the fawn sucked, he lowered them slowly into the milk, right? See, how is he making him to feel the milk first and then drinking it? Right, so what did he do? First he dipped his finger and took it to the very close to his mouth. The fawn sucked and suckled onto the fingers, and as soon as he took his hand back, again he cried. So what did he do? He dipped his fingers again into the bowl, and slowly he could take the bowl along with his fingers into it, very close to the fawn's mouth, right? The fawn blew and sucked and snorted. Okay, so what did he do? As you can see in the picture, Jody is trying so desperately to make the fawn feel the milk, and then he wants him to drink his milk from the container. So first he gives him milk through his fingers, and then he gives the container. While he gives the container, he keeps his fingers dipped into the milk container so that the fawn thinks that, okay, this is the thing that I have to drink. So what did he do? He sucked and snorted. Snorted, that means, sudden explosive sound of breathing. Right. So he started snorting through his perhaps nostrils, and he started sucking the milk. It stamped its small hoofs impatiently. Yes, it seems the fawn is very hungry, and he also starts stamping his feet on the ground because he is so hungry, and with stamping of feet he drinks the milk from the container. As long as he held his fingers below the level of the milk, the fawn was content. You see, till the fawn finished the milk from container completely, he did not take his fingers out of the container. because he knew as long as I'll keep my fingers dipped into the milk container, he will keep on drinking the milk. As soon as I take it back, he will stop drinking. And he did not want it. So he kept his fingers there. It closed his eyes dreamily. It was ecstasy to feel its tongue against his hand. See, these two have become friends. So many a times while drinking the milk, the fawn's tongue kept on touching Jodi's fingers. And whenever it touched, he sort of, had a feeling of thrilling. Ecstasy is the feeling of thrilling. He was so thrilled, right? He did not mind it. Its small tail flicked back and forth, he was waving his tail. The last of the milk vanished in a swirl of foam and gurgling. Okay, finally the fawn finished the milk from the container. Like when you suckle the milk from the container, especially the animals when they are drinking, when the doggy is drinking milk from the container, what happens? What sort of noise they make? Yeah, that is, making the bubbly sound, that is gurgling in the swirl of foam. This is like, suckling it just in one go. So all the milk was finally vanished in just one go in a bubbly manner, making the bubbles into it. So it shows that finally Jodi succeeded not only in bringing the fawn home, but he did not leave. He took the total responsibility of the fawn. He did not think that simply bringing fawn home is going to be done with. He thought that it is another responsibility of mine, that I have to train him into how to live in the house setting and how to drink milk from the container, right? So he did not stop at bringing the deer in the house. Sometimes we think, okay, bringing the dog or cat in the house, that is it. But when we are bringing any animal in the house, it is our responsibility to take care of them and to look into their needs and to fulfill them, right? It's not that we just got them in the house and they can be left in the marsh and they can do whatever they want to. No, it's not. So Jodi took that responsibility, the total responsibility of the fawn, sacrificing even his share of milk till the fawn starts eating greenery, right? So that speaks of Jodi's character, very thoughtful, very caring, very sensible boy that he was. So this is where the chapter is completed now. Now we need to do the comprehension check exercise, the last one. Let's go about it. The last comprehension check on page number 94, right? We finally finished part 3 here. Okay, what does the first question say? How did Jodi bring the fawn home back? Well, Jodi picked the fawn into his arms and rushed to his house. While walking, he kept the fawn down on the ground and took some rest. Later, the fawn followed him. This is how Jodi brought the fawn back home. Second question. Jodi was filled with emotion after he found the fawn. Can you find at least 3 words or 3 phrases or 3 sentences that can show his feelings, what he felt? Well, there are not only 3 sentences, but there are more than 3 sentences and the references that say that Jodi was very excited and he could not contain his happy feeling, right? You can write down the first sentence. The fawn shook him through with the stare of its liquid eye. Yes, that is there. Another sentence is, when Jodi put his hand and started fondling him on his soft neck, he did not move from there. That showed he also trusted Jodi, right? The third one, the touch of the fawn made him delirious. That is another sentence that speaks about Jodi's feelings. And the last one, as though the phone was a china deer. That means so delicate that needed a lot of looking after. So there are so many sentences that you can find across the text that shows Jodi's feelings. Okay, you don't have to write what I had said, but you can find those sentences on your own. You can find your own sentences that can express the boy's feelings towards the phone. Right, number 3. Jodi dipped. What is it? Yes, number 3. How did the deer drink milk from the gourd? Now, how did he drink milk? Go back to page number 93. And can you see this paragraph? He dipped his fingers in the milk. Then he left the phone sucking his fingers. He repeated this process for more than once, and the phone started drinking milk from the container. Now you can write it down in your own words. This paragraph, he dipped. Okay, you see this? Right, you have to write this paragraph, but do not copy it down from the book. You see, you have to write about what is the meaning of this paragraph. How did he make the phone drink milk? He dipped his fingers into the milk, thirsted before the wet mouth of the phone, and he sucked it so greedily. Then again he repeated the same thing, right? And this is how he taught the phone to drink the milk. So you write it in your own words. Don't copy the paragraph from the text. Number 4 says, why didn't the phone follow Jodi up the steps as he had thought it would? Well, the phone was not used to climb the steps. He was meant to be in the jungle, right? So it was for the first occasion that he was asked to climb the steps. Therefore, he could not. Right, now let's go to working with the text. There are 4 questions that I want you to write in your CW along with all comprehension check answers. Okay. First question says, why did Penny Buxter allow Jodi to go find the phone and raise it? Well, Penny was convinced by Jodi's argument that it would be ungrateful if they leave the phone in the forest to starve, since it was made orphan and the mother was killed. And he realized this fact that what Jodi was saying was right. So he was convinced. That is why he allowed Jodi to go find the phone and bring it home. Second question. What did Doc Wilson mean when he said nothing in this world ever comes quite for free? Well, whatever Doc Wilson said, that referred to the death of or the killing of the mother doe. They were the Buxters who killed the doe for their own self-purpose because they wanted to depoison Pa Buxter's body. And for that they had to kill the doe. Since the doe had been killed, the phone was the responsibility of the Buxters, right? Therefore, Doc Wilson says if they have killed the doe, the phone should be looked after by the Buxters. If they have taken something, they also have to replace it. They also have to give, because nothing in this world comes for free. The doe's life has to be paid off by looking after its orphaned phone. Right. Number 3. The last question. How did Jodi look after the phone third question, sorry. How did Jodi look after the phone after he accepted the responsibility for doing so? Well, Jodi started looking after the phone as if he was its mother. He started mothering the phone. You see, he not only taught him how to walk on the floor in his house, how to climb the steps, right? but also he taught him how to drink milk from the container. So he, such care can be given only by the mothers. So he started looking after the phone as if he was the phone's mother. Right, question number 4. How does Jodi's mother react when she hears that he's going to bring the phone home? Well, Jodi's mother turned her nose when she heard that he was going to bring back the phone. Why does she react in this way? Well, if you remember, while she was pouring the tea and Jodi suddenly came with the news that he wanted to bring the phone home, she held the kettle up in the air because she did not expect Jodi to speak something like this, right? She was surprised at Jodi's decision. Of course, she did not like it. And this is not a very well-to-do family. You see, not a very affluent family who could really afford an animal to come in the house and join them. Because still, if it happened, then Jodi had to sacrifice his food, which the mother did not want. I think if any mother would have been in Jodi's mother's place, would have reacted the same. This is the mother's nature, right? Because they do not want to negotiate with their children's share of food, which they can share with someone else. No mother would do it. So it is but natural. I mean, we cannot blame Jodi's mother for it, right? Any mother would have reacted in this same manner, right? Because she did not want to see an animal in the house taking a place of Jodi and share his food. So therefore, he reacted in this perhaps a little angry manner. You see, she did not like him. She did not favor Jodi's decision. Okay, fair enough. Finally, we have finished this chapter. All the doubts and the problems can be discussed during the live session. Please go through the video very carefully using your hands-free and note down your doubts if you have. We shall try to overcome all the doubts during the live session. Okay, keep learning then.